Well, it's sort of an equivalent of the US MLE. The difference being that the IFOM is better adapted to foreign students, or by foreign I mean non-American or non-US students. I think the main goal of the IFOM is for students internationally to compare themselves against some sort of standard. If you want to get into some internships in some parts of the world, you could get in through IFOM if you hit a particular score on the IFOM. Okay, so the IFOM is divided into two parts. There's the basic sciences and then there's the clinical science. Much like the USMLE, step 1 and step 2. The basic science tests anatomy, histology, and all of these basic sciences. It tests it in relation to the patient, but more so as a topic, But the clinical sciences now, you're supposed to get all that information and form a nicely knit carpet, You have a patient who has the symptoms, what's your next step in management? That's how clinical science goes. I think there's some kind of agreement between the owners of the exam, the administrators of the exam, and my Ministry of Health. Basically, they set a cutoff point, and if you pass that cutoff point, you don't need to write the local Ukrainian exams, the passing out exams. So I beat the cutoff point, and that means that I'm not going to write the Ukrainian exams. Thank you. What was expected of me was quite different from what I'd been trained with. If you just sort of followed the system, if you worked the Ukrainian system, chances are you would not be able to answer these questions, not because you're a bad student, just you were not trained that way. And that's it. So I think that one of the things I had to do was to reorient myself and sort of learn how to study in that kind of block system that would help me understand if there's a pathology here, what might it affect, and how could you possibly treat it. And that's the difference. It's not just about how many facts you've crammed. It's about understanding what's the most important problem in that question, in that vignette. What's the most important problem there, and how do you solve it? So, but in Ukraine, you might get a more direct question about which of the following drugs are not excreted through the kidney. But I think with the IFOM, there's this tendency to say that the patient presents with this, that, and what drugs should be given to treat this patient. But all they're trying to figure out is if you know what drugs go through the kidney in excretion or not. I really didn't have a multitude of advisors, telling me what to do. My friends and I, we put our heads together and, what do you think we should do? How are you going to prepare for this? And then we sort of compared notes and our strategies, and then we had these, I think, 2-week codes. Free code. I tried it out and it was amazing. And so I started to realize that, okay, I think I found what was missing in my medical education, and here is it. The major thing was the questions, right? Because I'm not used to that sort of examination, I realized that I needed to do more and more questions. And so what I did was that I totally based off of AMBOSS. I mean, I practiced the questions on AMBOSS, and then every time that I failed a question or didn't get it right or just guessed the answer, I'd read the explanations, and if I still didn't get what it was trying to say, I'd follow the link, the hyperlink to the sort of lecture, that has videos associated with it. So basically, if you've done all that and you still didn't understand, then there's probably a problem somewhere. So you should reconsider what you're doing in med school at the point. So I'm not saying that those moments didn't happen, because they did, and I really did reconsider. Textbooks are great, right? But oftentimes as a medical student, you don't have a lot of time to sort of go through the pages, and you're just looking for this particular phrase, right? And one thing I love about AMBOSS, actually it's my favorite feature, while doing questions, come across keywords that you thought you didn't understand or you thought were too important to sort of overlook, and you click on it, and it doesn't just take you to the library, it highlights, you know, the parts of the library that are important to that keyword as it relates to the question. It saves you an enormous amount of time and effort. As a medical student, that time is precious and you can't waste it. Yeah, I would have struggled with it because I would have had to search for all that information by myself, and I would have had to read protocols and books, and with the limited time that I had, like I said earlier, I literally had actually less than 2 months to study. With that limited time, I don't think I would have made it, so it did come in very handy. Thing is, it is super important, because if you don't do that early enough, you might find yourself running around in circles, first of all. Secondly, you might find that you are reading from a harder material when you could have done it from an easier one, and you're spending an hour on something that you could have spent 10 minutes on. And so if you do that, it would mean that you're getting worn out easier, you're getting more frustrated. And one thing about human beings is that we're limited on motivation. We don't have limitless motivation. At some point you kind of run out of steam. And so, it's important that you figure out the fastest, the most efficient way to get to where you want to go, and take it.